There was a world once called Earth. None of you have ever seen it. Neither did your parents, nor their parents, nor 1,000 generations before them. It is so far behind you, not in distance, but in time, that it has become a myth. Humankind left its cradle so long ago that the leaving itself was forgotten. Thousands of generations have lived and died in the long dark between the stars. Whole ages of people you will never hear named rose and fell and were lost. The blue sky, the yellow sun, the warm oceans, all of it has faded into a story only the oldest among you still half believe. You are not that first humanity. You are what it became, changed by the journey, shaped by the dark, carrying the memory of a home world none of you have ever seen. And tonight, after the forgetting, after the drifting, after deep time itself, a small band of those distant children does something no human has done in countless ages. They step onto a new world, and you are one of them. The ground beneath your boots is Proxima B. There are a few dozen of you, no more, and its red sun is already trying to kill you all. Minutes ago, you fell through a sky no living human had ever seen. The descent is over. The engines have gone silent. You look back at the others climbing out behind you, a handful of figures against an endless plain, and the truth of where you are settles over all of you at once. You are not alone, but you have never been further from home. The few of you standing here are the only human life for 4 light years in every direction. Everything your species still is, gathered onto one fragile shore. You look up. The sun here is Proxima Centauri, a red dwarf, a star barely 1/10 the mass of the one your kind was born under. Because this world huddles so close to it, a full year here lasts just 11 days. That small star looms enormous. It hangs nearly 3 times wider than the sun in the old stories, but it is dim, and it is red, a deep, brooding, blood-red light that paints all of you the color of dying embers. It does not climb. It does not fall. It simply stays, fixed in one place, forever. This world is locked to its star. One face is turned toward that red sun for all eternity, a hemisphere of endless, burning daylight. The other is turned away forever, a frozen, lightless waste that has never once felt warmth. Between them runs a single thin band where the sun rests permanently on the horizon, a ring of eternal sunset circling the entire planet. It is the only place your people could survive, and it is where you have all come to stand. Now turn from the sun toward the dark. 2 brilliant points of light burn there, brighter than any star, and they are not stars at all, but suns. 2 companions of your little red dwarf, blazing across the void. You stand in a system of 3 suns, and not one of them is the one that first gave your kind life. And somewhere in that crowded sky is a single, faint point of light, closer than any other star you can see, and yet so unremarkable you could hide it behind your thumb. That dim star is the sun your species was born under. Around it still turns a pale blue speck where, ages ago, everything you are began. It is 4 light years away, the nearest star in all the heavens, and almost no one among you remembers its name. Now the questions that decide whether any of you live begin. The first is the cruelest, because nothing in your people's deep knowledge can answer it. Can you breathe the air? Proxima B sits in the habitable zone, the narrow band where a world is the right distance from its star for liquid water to exist. On paper, that is good news, but its star is a monster, And no one can tell you whether this world kept an atmosphere at all, or whether it was stripped away long before you ever arrived. So the suits on your backs are either an unnecessary precaution, or the only fragile thing standing between your whole crew and instant death. You take a step, and the others follow. The ground pulls back harder than the worlds you were raised on. This planet is heavy, and you feel it in your knees, in your chest, in every limb. And then you all notice the thing nothing could have prepared you for. The silence. No wind. No sound of anything alive but your own breathing and the others. A stillness so complete that the loudest thing in the universe is the pulse in your own ears. This is what a truly dead world sounds like. And none of you can shake the thought, this is what a living world sounds like before you have found the life. You spread out along the terminator, the twilight ring, because to step toward the daylight side is to walk into a furnace, and toward the night is to walk into a freezer, where the air itself would turn to frost. And then the sun changes. Proxima Centauri is a flare star, one of the most violent kinds in the galaxy. Without warning, without mercy, it convulses. The dim red disk flares suddenly, savagely brighter, and an invisible wave of radiation sweeps across the surface, hundreds of times stronger than anything the old yellow sun ever loosed upon its children. Enough, over time, to sterilize a world. Someone shouts. You run for cover with the others, and there is almost none. When it passes, you press on, and as you move, at the edge of your vision, you see something, maybe a glow, deep beneath the ice of the night side, a light that should not be there, maybe a shape on the horizon a little too regular, a little too deliberate, to be an accident of stone, or maybe nothing at all, a trick played on eyes that, even after all this time, were never built to read the light of a red sun. None of you will learn the truth tonight. You may never learn it, and the not knowing follows the whole crew into the dark, because eventually you have to face the dark. On the night side of this world, it is colder than anywhere your kind has ever stood. A cold with no bottom, a darkness with no dawn coming to end it. You look up for comfort, the way your ancestors did across uncounted generations, and you find none. The stars overhead form no shape that any of you ever named. Even the heavens are strangers here. So you do the only thing left to do. Together, you send a signal into the dark, toward that one faint, nearest star, toward the forgotten world that may no longer be there at all, in a language its makers no longer speak. It will travel 4 years before it arrives, if anything remains to receive it. None of you expect an answer. You send it anyway, because it is the closest thing to coming home that any of you will ever have. And yet, you are here, the first of humankind's long scattered children to stand on this world, beneath a foreign sun, a few thousand generations from the people who first looked up and dreamed of it. You are only a few dozen, but everything humanity becomes on this world, every life, every birth, every story still to come, begins with a handful of you standing in this ring of red twilight. You are either the next chapter of a story older than memory, or you are its final page. And which one it becomes is not yet written. The red sun holds steady on the horizon. The 2 distant suns burn in the dark, and that one small, faint light keeps its silent watch 4 light years away, where, ages ago, beneath a blue sky no one remembers, something began that has, at last, after everything, reached this shore. If you want to keep standing in the places humankind was never meant to reach, the worlds we can see and study and dream of, across distance and across deep time, then follow along. We are only just beginning, and there are far stranger suns ahead.